Good morning, everybody. Today, in discussing the Civil War, we're going to be discussing some side facts which are no less interesting to what took place. Now, in 1861, when the southern states began seceding from the Union, the king of Siam, which is Southeastern Asia, modern-day Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, whose name I cannot pronounce for the life of me, so I'm not even going to try. He offered to show his support to the United States. He sent a letter to then President James Buchanan offering his support, and what he did is in the letter he sent a photograph of himself and one of his children. He also sent a decorated sword. He sent 2 ivory tusks, and he offered to send elephants to the United States, largely because elephants were things that were highly needed and relied upon in that part of the world as beasts of burden and for purposes of war and for many other things. He was actually in shock that the United States didn't have elephants, and so he offered to send some out to the United States with the idea of having the president drop them off in some remote forest area on our frontier and let them breed to where they become a mighty force on their own to help out in that area. And so James Buchanan didn't do anything with this because he had effectively checked out as president, because seeing as how he did absolutely nothing when the cotton states were seceding, he chose to completely ignore this letter also. So it fell to his successor, Abraham Lincoln, and Secretary of State Seward, to respond to it. Now, what would have been common was for the president to scoff at this idea, not because of anything to do with Lincoln, but because most people in the West strongly looked down their noses on most places of the East, and they probably would have thumbed their noses at it, and that would have been that. But what President Lincoln did was he offered a letter genuinely thanking the king for his concern, but then he also went to explain that elephants couldn't really be of any use in the United States because with our technology and steam technology, it had technically rendered such beasts of burden to be obsolete. But he genuinely thanked the king of Siam for his help and his interest in trying to help the United States during this time of crisis. Some people speculate that he wanted to bring the elephants over for the sake of war elephants, for the sake of using them in the actual war, but the documents I have read show that he actually was wanting to bring them over here for the sake of helping out the American people in general, helping out our economy. Now, another point touching upon the subject of Siam was about 30 years earlier, there was a set of conjoined twins under the last name of Bunker. Chang and Eng, I believe their names were. And they were conjoined, and they became known as Siamese twins because they came from that part of the world. They were connected at the sternum. And they came on to great notoriety here in the United States. And then they also took their fortunes, and they bought a great deal of land in the Great Smoky Mountains up in North Carolina. And they settled there. Now, what happened in 1865, a Union general was in that area trying to force conscription of anybody regardless of their loyalty, and they did it by a lottery, I guess you could say, and one of the conjoined twins' names was pulled out saying that they had to join the Union Army. And looking at the fact that he was conjoined and the other twin was like, I'm not doing it, so they escaped being forced into the United States Army in 1865. Although the men happened to both marry a pair of sisters, and they did have children, and one of their sons went on to fight in the Confederate Army. So those are some interesting facts coming from Southeast Asia around the time of our Civil War. So there you go.